We are days away from a pivotal matchup for the 49ers, a Super Bowl rematch from 2019 with the Kansas City Chiefs. I have my brother Ryan Hensley here to give you all the lowdown and preview the game. Keep it locked. What is up, fam? Thank you so much for tuning in to So Real Sports Talk on this Thursday afternoon. We have a real special guest, Mr. Ryan G Hensley. Man, first time to the show, my man. I know we go back and forth on Twitter. You definitely stood out to me because you have some really interesting takes, and then I think we had a very similar take that nobody was talking about, but had to get you on the show, my man. How's everything going with you today?
Oh, it's good, man. It's super hot in here, brother. That's why I got this fan on it. I gotta get this AC fixed. I'm out in my office in my backyard. Crazy hot. By the way, your intro is like elite, man. I gotta set my intro game up.
Yeah, man. I actually got to shout out Niner Sickness Podcast. Beto actually put that together for me. He has some amazing graphics. So definitely got to give him props for making that. I don't know how to do anything, Ryan. Luckily, we were talking off camera about how great this community is. All of these overlays are done by Jesse Naylor. My intro is done by Beto. I just try to make sure that I'm worthy, man. But definitely cool to see everybody help each other out.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Jesse's a good guy too.
Yeah, he definitely is. So he's all right. But Ryan, that's not what I brought you here to talk about. Obviously, we have a very, very important game coming up. Like I mentioned in the intro, a Super Bowl repeat. You know, this game was circled on everybody's calendar when the schedule came out. I think most people thought we would be in a little bit better situation going into this game, especially with injuries. So that definitely is a major storyline going in. So I wanted to start out. You know, we obviously have seen some guys that are coming back to practice. Obviously, Bosa, Trent Williams, and Jimmy Ward, notably, are the ones that are back at practice, fully practicing. You know, we saw Hufunga's there, kind of, you know, on the borderline, questionable whether or not he's going to play from the concussion. So we'll throw him in there as well. But which players coming back from injury, Ryan, will have the biggest impact in this game, do you think?
Trey Lance. No, I'm kidding. I wish he was.
That would be epic. That would be epic.
That would be awesome. No, yeah. That's tough to answer, man, because this game is going to be so hard. I feel like they all play a crucial role in what the 49ers are going to need to do this coming weekend in order to compete with the Chiefs. You know, Hufanga is probably one of my favorites. You know, immediately that's the guy that strikes me. I know that may be a surprise for some people because there's a lot of elite players coming back. You know, Trent Williams is going to be huge on the offensive line if he comes back healthy. Although they have done a pretty well job of in pass protection, you know, I think he's going to do an amazing job. Hopefully opening up that run game, which is going to be an important part of the 49ers offense getting back on track. So I look at Trent Williams, and obviously he's one of the best players in the NFL, if not the best player in the NFL. So that's huge. And then you have, you know, I don't know about Travarius Ward. He might be the least likely to come back. It's kind of looking like. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's still not at practice. So, you know, it's Thursday. So that means there's only a couple more days for him to get healthy before he could play. So,
Yeah, I'm not sure if he comes back, that'd be great. I know he wants to play in this game against his former team,
Right.
and he's been a lead all year as well. And then Jimmy Ward with the club. I don't know. If Hufanga's back, honestly, like as much as I love Jimmy Ward, Hufanga has done a great job this year. So if Hufanga's back and Jimmy can't play, but it sounds like Jimmy's going to play with the club anyways. Honestly, can I just say all of them because in order to beat the Chiefs, man, they're really going to need to be there. And then Nick Bosa, of course, on the pass rush.
Right.
The Chiefs, what they do is they score touchdowns through the air. So Nick Bosa is going to help with that, getting pressure on Patrick Mahomes, hopefully getting a couple sacks. But then everyone else coming back, they're defensive backs, and they're going to be key in stopping the passing game too. So it's really hard for me to just pick one, to be honest.
No, you're right. I mean, unfortunately, fortunately, the 49ers against most rosters are going to be head and shoulders when it comes to talent-wise above most rosters. Kansas City Chiefs aren't one of those rosters, right? So because of the way, obviously they have a superstar quarterback, they have a superstar tight end, they have really good receivers all over the place, really good coaching, and they have very, very good players all around, all on their defense as well. You need your stars for these type of games, right? You might be able to get away with a Bosa or, Trent Williams not playing against a Seattle or against the Carolina, where talent-wise it's just very, very different. But against the Chiefs, you want to have your full plethora of weapons there. And I think, the two that I would say are going to be the most impactful are probably Trent and Bosa, the trenches, right? Because that's pretty much where this game is going to be played on both sides of the ball, right? The 49ers, for them to have any chance to win this game, Ryan, they have to control the ball. You have to limit how many opportunities Patrick Mahomes has, because it's not about if he's going to score. It's just about when he's going to score. So, yeah, exactly. So the easiest way to keep him from scoring is keep the ball away from him. So that means, like you mentioned, the running game really has to be impactful, which isn't something that the 49ers have been able to do consistently throughout the season. So hopefully having Trent there is going to help that. And on the other side, you want to make life as hard as possible for Patrick Mahomes, and that's where Bosa comes in, right? So Bosa being able to get to Mahomes, pressuring him, getting the ball out of his hands before he feels comfortable doing that is going to be extremely important. And we saw how limited this defensive line looks when Bosa's not there. Not that they weren't good. I mean, the defensive line still was decent without Bosa there, but they're on a different level when Bosa is there. It makes all of these others look so much better when they're getting, forgotten about, or one-on-ones versus the double teams and, all that type of stuff. So I agree with you. I mean, it is going to be kind of like everybody is going to play a big role. But let's kind of move on, because I want to know more specifically about each side. So clearly we know that the Chiefs are a high-powered offense. They score a ton of points. I think they're close to 30 points per game. 49ers are not. They don't have a high-powered offense. So if this goes to a shootout, Ryan, I don't know. You would think that means a dub for the Chiefs, but am I wrong with that? Do you think that this offense can put up the points to keep par with the Chiefs, or how does this offense even contend with the Chiefs offense?
The way that this offense contends with the Chiefs offense is through our defense, because we can't match Patrick Mahomes. I'm sorry. I just don't believe that Jimmy's going to win a shootout against Patrick Mahomes. Right. That's just my opinion.
So we're definitely going to get to the defense on the next question, Ryan. But particularly, I guess, what are you looking for out of this offense, knowing the personnel, what the offenses look like in the first 6 games? What do they need to do to contend in this game?
Okay, so I was looking at some statistics on the Chiefs, and what's kind of surprising to me is they've given up less rushing touchdowns than the 49ers. Did you know that? They've only given up 3 rushing touchdowns, and the 49ers have given up 4. That was a real surprise for me. I was like, "What are you talking about right now?" Right? And then, but from the passing standpoint, they have allowed, let me double check. KC's allowed 18 total. So 18 total touchdowns. The 49ers has only allowed 8 total. So they've given up 15 passing touchdowns. So they've given up 15 passing touchdowns and only 3 rushing. So what this makes me think, I mean, your first initial thought is, okay, their rushing defense must be better than their passing defense. And that may be true. But what I think a lot of that is that they score so many damn points that the teams that they're going up against are forced to get into a passing game.
Right.
So if the 49ers cannot establish the run, and they haven't done a great job of it all year, they're kind of lower mid, like in the 15 to 20 range as far as their running game right now, which is kind of a surprise. And then their passing game's in the bottom 8, pretty much almost every statistic. So the 49ers have struggled offensively, and the biggest part of that is because they haven't established the run like they normally do. So hopefully with Trent Williams coming back, that helps because the 49ers have based Kyle Shanahan bases his whole offensive philosophy around running the ball, taking time off the clock, attacking through the rush game, and all the passes that they make come off of that, but it's very secondary. And that's why you see them struggling when they're down in the fourth quarter, because they've never focused on having a good passing game, and now they're seeing the consequences for it. So I think that's one of the errors in Kyle Shanahan's philosophy that I wish he would address, is focus more on having a passing game. But in this particular game, you can't change your philosophy and do everything different now. So they're really going to have to establish the run and do what they want to do, like what Kyle Shanahan's philosophy is. They need to execute that. The problem is that they haven't even been executing that philosophy all year long, where they're running the clock down, the defense is playing great and taking away possessions for Patrick Mahomes. And the other thing real quick is that the 49ers are actually not doing a horrible job of moving the ball. It's just scoring, like getting points off of it. And so you got to do more than just control the possession, the clock, right? You need to actually put numbers on the board. And so the 49ers, what they need to do, and based on everything I'm seeing, the Chiefs defense is not really elite, but they're going to need to punch it in. And George Kittle has 0 touchdowns all year. What they need to do, in my opinion, what they should have been doing for years now, is target George Kittle more in the end zone. He's a super talented guy. He's your biggest target. And when they get down to the red zone, I really want them to attack through the air with George Kittle. The Chiefs give up more passing touchdowns than rushing touchdowns. So they need to, establish that run, maintain clock possession. And when they get in the red zone, they need to score. And I think George Kittle and Ayuk can help them a lot to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the only thing I'd add is they have to have really good ball security, right? When you talk about one of the main reasons why they're not punching it in, we saw, last week the fumble by Jeff Wilson Jr., which stopped the drive that looked like it was going to lead to at least some kind of points. Jimmy threw 2 interceptions. One of them was kind of like a Hail Mary at the end, but at the end of a half. But the other one definitely, was timely for the 49ers. And that's kind of been the key, right? As far as, when you're talking about clock management, when you're talking about, move the ball, put up touchdowns, we're trying to limit as many opportunities that Kansas City offense has to be able to score. So definitely winning the turnover battle is going to be key. And Ryan, as far as like the 49ers is, they have a pretty consistent way of winning or losing, and it's the turnover game. If they win the turnover battle, they've won every single game. If they've lost the turnover battle, they've lost every single game. So it's really about, you could kind of narrow it down to that one metric and be able to see if the 49ers are going to win or not win. When you talk about the explosive plays during the passing game, Dove Kleinman put up a tweet today. I don't know if you got a chance to see it. Put up a little graphic, and it was Jimmy Garoppolo's rankings for throwing the ball 15 yards and beyond. Yeah, and he was either last or second to last in all of the categories that were being ranked. Mm-hmm. So Obviously, I think Shanahan going into this season felt like there was going to be more of an opportunity to get the ball down the field when Trey Lance was his quarterback. Unfortunately, Trey Lance got injured, so we do have Jimmy. Jimmy's strength isn't throwing the ball down the field, but he is elite at getting the ball out of his hands quickly, and he's very accurate. 10 yards and beyond, right? Or 10 yards and below. I think one of the things that I'd really like to see, Ryan, and tell me what your opinion is on this. The level of talent we have in our receiving core, I think, is far supersedes the level of talent that we have in our running back room. Get the ball into the hands of the receivers in the open field. Give them an opportunity to make a play. And what I mean by that is wide receiver screens, quick slants across the field, like get the ball to our playmakers and allow them to make a play, because that's kind of, I think, the only way we could really contend. I don't have faith that our rushing game is going to be able to just pound it and be able to sustain first downs, because it's been 6 games. They haven't been able to do it in any of the games, right? So really, I think how often can you force the ball into Debo's hands, force the ball into Ayuk's hands, force the ball into Kittle's hands, giving them the opportunity to break a play. To me, that's what I really need to see out of this offense, because I think that's the only way they're going to be able to do that. If they get too conservative, Ryan, I feel like it's going to be too little too late, and they're just going to run out of time like they did last week against Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a huge thing too. Like everything I said about running the ball goes out the window if you go down 14 points.
Right.
And that's the thing, that the urgency that we saw in the Falcons game, it just was not there. And when you're a team that's not known for scoring a lot of points, you need as many possessions as you can at that point if you're down 14 points, right? So Kyle likes to play this clock game and, control the ball and defense and all that. That all goes that you can't do that when you're down by 14 points, particularly if your team's not good at punching it in. That means you need more possessions, right? So they need to turn up that urgency. They need to attack. Guys need to step up. But Kyle and those guys, they got to do a better job of putting the right personnel in when they're doing that, instead of throwing deep bombs to Ray or Warner. Right, hit up your good receivers. And one thing that was encouraging for me is, and I've been calling for it for months, is getting Brandon Ayuk more involved, giving him more target. He's your best receiver. Like, Debo's your best weapon on the team, one of the best weapons in the NFL. But from purely receiving standpoint, getting open and catching the ball, that's Brandon Ayuk. And he's been doing it for a long time, hasn't got any looks really until last game. So he's going to be a crucial part of their success if they have it this weekend.
For sure. And especially, like, you think about it from a defensive perspective, they're probably focusing their game plan on Debo, obviously, and Kittle. So Ayuk is probably getting a lot of one-on-one opportunities, and you would like that matchup against him versus any cornerback in the league as far as his ability to run routes, his hands, right? He could go up and make contested catches, but he's also really good in the open field, as we saw. And, some of those touchdowns that he scored last week, those weren't for sure touchdowns. He was able to make some moves and use his speed to be able to get to an edge and so on and so forth. So for me,
in high school, did you know that?
Say that one more time.
Brandon Ayuk was a running back in high school.
Yeah.
So the way he runs with the ball after catching it, I think he's a little underestimated. Maybe they're just
absolutely. I mean, we saw his rookie year what he was able to do against the Eagles with that hurdle of the defender for that one touchdown. So we know he has it in him. He's obviously put in the work this offseason. I know he was probably the most bummed out when Trey went down, because they had a really good connection. But it seems like at least Jimmy is looking his way more often this year than he has in previous years, which is a good sign. But I would like to see the offense utilize these receivers as much as possible. If the running game just gets stagnant, I would like to see them manufacture yards through maybe quick short passes to these receivers, because I feel like they'll be able to gain that, I guess, manufacture those 4 to 6 yard plays that we would need from the running backs to make it like 3rd and short versus 3rd and long. Because reality is, I don't know if this running game is just going to all of a sudden, even with Trent there, I don't know if it's the offensive line, the reason why this running attack isn't working. It just seems like they don't have the backs to be able to do it. We'll see. I know a lot of people are clamoring for Jordan Mason to get some run to see what he's able to do. Maybe we'll be able to see that. Maybe Kyle's like holding this bullet in the holster the whole time because he was saving it for this game. We'll see. But definitely, the offense is going to have to pull their weight, right? Because we don't expect the defense to just hold Patrick Mahomes to like 10 points like they've been able to do with other teams. Yeah, but let's talk about that defense, right? Yeah, let's talk about that defense because clearly, the 49ers up until last week were the number one defense by far. But injuries have played a role in maybe negating that. Obviously, Emmanuel Mosley going down really hurts. Mooney Ward going down really hurts. That was an elite duo there that were really holding down the secondary for the 49ers. Hufanga, you mentioned, has been playing all pro level. We obviously have, some of the best linebackers. And, Nick Bosa and that defensive line have really been wreaking havoc. Some of those guys are coming back, but we don't know if they're going to be at 100%. How does this defense slow down the Chiefs, right? We haven't really seen too many teams do it. E. Kim says, the Bucs showed that to beat Kansas City, you got to put pressure on Mahomes. Is it simple as that, Ryan, or do you feel like there's more to slowing down this Kansas City offense?
Well, you said the Bucs. You mean the Bills? Right? You're talking about the Bills?
I think he's probably talking about the Bills because the Bills are the ones who just beat them. But
yeah, the Bills did beat them, but I'm pretty sure they still scored 28, 30 points, something like that. So I wish it was that easy. And the problem is 49ers have struggled notoriously against teams with mobile quarterbacks. Kyle Shanahan is 0-2 against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, one thing that's going in our favor is the 49ers have only allowed 8 points per game at home this year. So the fact that it is a home game and that some of the injured players are coming back, that may definitely help. But I don't know. I have my doubts. And one of the big questions is Kelsey. Now, I don't know who's going to play at the safety spot. Maybe they'll have three safeties. I don't know what they're going to be doing if Hufanga and Ward are both playing. But Ward is probably our best person to cover Travis Kelsey. The only problem is he's rocking a club right now, so I'm not sure how that's going to affect him. But they really have to take Kelsey out of it. I don't know if that's possible, but that's got to be a major focus for them right now. And then, yes, applying pressure to Patrick Mahomes and trying to contain him. The guy's so dang good, man. It's a really hard thing to do. So I'm not really sure what they're going to be able to do. I know if any team can stop them, it's going to be the 49ers defensively at home with a healthy roster. But it's a tough challenge. And then, we just talked about the offense. They're going to have to keep them down to, I think the 49ers average what? Like 20 points per game allowed? Something like that. Is that what it is? I forgot to look.
I think it's lower than that. I don't know. I haven't seen it since the Atlanta game. The defense itself was averaging only giving up 9 points per game until the Atlanta game, but I don't know if it changed after that.
I feel like for me that number, in order to give the 49ers a chance, if you let them go above 28 points at all, if it's anything above 28, I don't think the 49ers have a chance. But if they can keep them around that 28 mark, it's possible that we can squeeze out some touchdowns against those guys. Because their defense is really not that good. It's just a question of whether Kyle and Jimmy and the offense can step up and put some points on the board,
Yeah. So I looked it up. The Bills held Kansas City to 20 points. So they were able to keep that offense somewhat, contained because obviously I think they averaged closer to 30 points.
That's good. The Bills are a good defense too. So,
very good.
Maybe that's something the 49ers can do. But I know if they get to 28 or above, I don't think the 49ers have a chance. If we can keep them to 20, then I think it's definitely a possibility that they can win this game.
For sure. And it's a little bit tough because you would feel way more confident if Mooney Ward was playing, and even if we had like a good sense that Jason Verrett was going to be playing. Obviously if Mosley was there, that would be, but the cornerbacks now all of a sudden are now your third and fourth cornerbacks. So I don't know if they're going to put Lenore and Womack there, or if they're going to move up Dante Johnson, start him. Is Ambry Thomas like now all of a sudden you're a little bit not as confident in the corners, and you're like, okay, well now maybe you're not playing as much man because you need to help out these corners. And I wonder if that means it's like a good thing that Jimmy Ward is coming back, because when you had Mooney Ward and Mosley there, the safeties didn't have to you didn't need that safety net as much, right? Mm-hmm. Because these guys could just lock down their receivers, and you didn't have to worry about bringing over safety help. It really helped out Hufanga be more of a ball hawk and really be a disruptor, because he didn't have to worry about if guys got past Mosley or got past Charvarius Ward. Now I don't know if you have that same confidence, right? Because Lenore's been playing well at the nickel, but I don't know if he's as consistent as an outside corner, right? Samuel Womack, if he is on the outside, he's a rookie now that's going to be playing up against whether it be a Juju or MVS, like very seasoned veteran guys. So you would tend to think that the receivers would have, especially with Mahomes at quarterback, the advantage there. So you might see a lot more zone, right, in this secondary, and that might not be as big of a strength as it has been in previous games. So it really boils down to me, Ryan, this defensive line, right? This defensive line has to be disruptive, because I think that you're not going to have that safety net of these corners playing lights out, because our stud corners are all in street clothes on the sideline, right? So that's where I think it's a little bit different. It's unfortunate, because I do think that a healthy 49ers defense can really contend easily. Not easily, but at least it's a matchup that you really want to see because of the talent that we have on our defense. We don't have everybody there, right? So it's really going to be up to Bosa, up to Ebicom to really wreak havoc there, right? Because I don't know if Armstead's playing. We know Kinlaw's not playing. So those are, backup type players that are going to be playing in the interior. So hopefully Bosa can make some noise and make some plays and speed up that clock, because if they give Patrick Mahomes time against this version of the 49ers secondary, it probably won't be very good.
Yeah, and he's really good at buying himself time too. So even if they apply that pressure and they get there quickly, he's really good at escaping and creating more time, and that's when he's the most dangerous. So you got to be disciplined. They got to be just almost contain more than get to him. It would be apply that pressure, but don't come around too hard on the edge, because that's when he tends to step up and step out and create extra plays. So I think. Honestly, I really think the 49ers have a better roster than the Chiefs. It's just they're tight end.
Even with the injuries?
Even with, I mean, overall, like their actual roster, I mean, besides on the offense, besides Kelsey, besides Patrick Mahomes, what elite players do they have on their team on their offense?
Right? I guess it depends on how you define elite, right? Like probably not elite, but they have guys that you need to pay attention to.
Right, but I mean, the fact that, we just can't even think of them, you know what I'm saying? They have no, big-name offensive stars in Kansas City outside of Kelsey and Mahomes right now. Like, with Hill leaving, before they had Hill, and that was another thing.
Well, I mean, Juju could make some noise. Clyde Edwards-Helaire definitely is a weapon out of the backfield. For some reason, Jarrett McKinnon plays well against the 49ers, because I guess he's like a revenge game. But
think of the guys you're naming.
But they're not Debo and Ayuk. They're not Debo, Ayuk, or Kittle.
And think about the guys you're naming on their offense and comparing them to the guys on our defense, even with the guys that are injured. I mean, just our middle linebackers alone are, I think what they have better than us is the quarterback and the tight end. And I like George Kittle, but from a scoring standpoint, from a receiving standpoint, Kelsey is better. I think Kittle has 20 total touchdowns, something like that total in his career. Kelsey might get that this year. right?
I think he's had that in a year.
Yeah, I think he has, man. So that is for me, like I think the Niners are better. It's just a matter of Patrick Mahomes above everything else. And
Right.
if you can find a way to disturb him enough to where he's not comfortable, then you have a chance to win. That's really going to boil it down to.
Well, I'm interested to see because I think this is going to be a game where we really get to see what D'Amico Ryans is is capable of. Because usually D'Amico has way more talent on his defense than like anybody else, right? When you're talking about the cornerbacks, the safeties, the linebackers, like you mentioned, the defensive line, when everybody's healthy, you would think that anybody could really have a very successful defense with that kind of talent. D'Amico obviously, I think does help him get better, but now with not the secondary that you usually have, right? Not the same defensive line that you have, and up against a very high-powered offense, what are you going to do? Like, that's what I'm going to be excited to see. Yeah. Does D'Amico get aggressive and do a lot of blitzes, or is he going to be conservative and bend, not break? That's what I'm going to be pretty interested in seeing. And this is going to be a big game for D'Amico, right? I think a lot of other teams outside of the 49ers that are looking for coaches next season, they're probably looking at, hey, how does D'Amico Ryans do with this roster or this type of personnel against, a high-powered offense like that? If the defense plays as well as they've played the last 6 games, that's going to be pretty impressive. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to it. I mean, if you want to be positive, the Raiders were like within 1 point of beating the Chiefs. So if the Raiders can come within a point, I feel like the Niners got a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Kansas City, I think is more scary by name than they're actually playing right now, right? So it's not like they're just blowing teams out. I mean, they are blowing certain teams out, but they've already lost a few times. They've lost, last Colts. Week. So, and they lost to the Colts, right? So they've already got 2 losses. So they have 1 less loss than the 49ers. So it's good. It's not like there's no hope, but the margin for error is a lot smaller with this team than other teams.
Absolutely.
Speaking of coaching, so I know you're very in tune with what's going on with 49ers Twitter and the faithful overall, because you do an amazing show every morning about it. But there's this narrative right now around Kyle Shanahan, and for the first time, the drums are getting louder on this group that's saying maybe Kyle Shanahan's a little overrated. Maybe he's not the right coach for the 49ers. Maybe we can't win a Super Bowl because Kyle Shanahan is holding back this roster. I don't know how you feel about that, but does Kyle Shanahan have something to prove in this game going up against, the Kansas City Chiefs, 3-3? Does he have something to prove in week 7 of this early season?
It's kind of what really matters is what he does in the postseason. If he gets to the postseason, gets hot, he could lose this game. He could lose against the Rams the following week. But if he gets into the postseason and he finds success and he's not a hindrance to the team winning in the postseason, or he's helping the team, or if the offense starts looking good, that's what he really needs to prove in my eyes. Whether he beats the Chiefs or not, I don't know how much that's going to change. I know it's going to hype a lot of the fan base up. If he can pull off a W against the Chiefs, he's never beaten the Chiefs. He lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So maybe to him he does, but I don't know. If he loses, all it's going to do is just, it's more of the same that we saw this week. And then he can fix the whole dang thing if he goes and has success in the postseason. So I don't know how much it's going to affect him long-term, but it'll definitely help him out over the next week on Twitter. I can tell you that much.
Right. How do you feel about the job Shanahan has done, this season, and how do you put that in, I guess, the perspective of how he's been overall with his tenure here with the 49ers? Do you feel like he's the right coach?
So I'm pretty critical of Kyle Shanahan. That being said, I haven't ever said, let's fire him. I criticize him a lot. There's a lot of things I want to see him improve. There's a lot of things I think he does not good, but there's a lot of things he does well. So I ranked him. I put out a tweet this morning that, what I would love to see him do, like in order for me to change my grade of Kyle Shanahan, I gave him a B plus, which I think is honestly pretty dang generous. I think he's more of like a B minus maybe, but I gave him a B plus today. And for me, in order to get rid of that B plus and go to an A level, he needs to be able to, one, show us that he can develop a quarterback, or show us that you can deliver a high-powered scoring offense, or don't fall asleep in the fourth quarter, or win the freaking Super Bowl, man. Those things are what frustrates me about Kyle Shanahan. He's like using the wrong personnel, the way he just can't score a dang point in the fourth quarter. Those are the things that frustrate me with Kyle Shanahan now, that you could do a lot worse. And so that's why, the reason why I find it's even like with Jimmy, like I don't hate Jimmy. I don't think he's the worst quarterback in the league, but there's so many people like Kyle Shanahan's a genius, Jimmy's elite. And I find myself having to like fight against that because it's just, to me, it's ridiculous, right? That you're ranking him a genius already. To me, Bill Walsh is the only genius I've ever heard of in football. Maybe there's other people that other people consider geniuses in the game of football, but to me, there's only one. So it's when you call Kyle Shanahan a genius where I'm like, whoa, like, no, dude. Like that's when I get defensive, and that's why people think, oh, I don't like Kyle Shanahan. It's not that I don't like him. I don't want him fired. I just want him to improve in certain areas. And so that's kind of where I see Kyle Shanahan. He's like a B-level quarterback, and if he wants to go up to an A, he's going to have to do one of the things I mentioned.
Yeah, I'm a Shanahan stan, so I really enjoy Kyle Shanahan. I think there's some fair criticism about him. Mm-hmm. You mentioned one of them is inability to fix this quarterback room, because that's kind of like the excuse that everybody gives him. Well, hey, man, you've been here for 6 years now. Like, why hasn't this been fixed? Obviously the injury thing, you got to say at this point is not just bad luck. This is a trend. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I think is fair criticism. It's an interesting week, though, right? Because the 49ers are doing something special this week because of the home game, and they're bringing back, some of the old players from previous teams. Potterbow Hammer has a really great question here. Who would you guys take, Shanahan or Harbaugh? Because Harbaugh is going to be in the stands, with Kaepernick actually in at the game this week. So what about you? Obviously Shanahan and Harbaugh were the last two coaches that have had, success with the 49ers. Out of those two regimes, which one did you like better?
I got a certain connection with that Harbaugh era because I was writing for a newspaper in the Bay Area and Bleacher Report during that era from 2009 to 2012. That was my last season. It was 2012 of covering them as a journalist. So I got a special connection with those guys, man, and a lot of fond memories of that team. That's a tough one, man. To me, they're both about the same. Like, they are both about the same, right? So if we look at everything, they both went to NFC championship games. They both went to Super Bowls and lost. Mm-hmm. Harbaugh has a much better record. He's at 69% win percentage than Kyle Shanahan has. Harbaugh could come back into the NFL as a coach, lose 25 games straight, and still have a better winning percentage than Kyle Shanahan, right? but if I'm being fair, Harbaugh's team was better than Kyle Shanahan's, the one that he had. Like, he took over. They say he inherited a Super Bowl team. Now, I don't go that far as to say he inherited a Super Bowl team, because if people remember correctly, nobody thought Alex Smith was going to take anybody to the freaking Super Bowl, right? And Harbaugh, his first draft picks, he drafted like 5 quality guys that helped contribute to that. They assigned Carlos Rogers. So, yes, Harbaugh's team was better than what Kyle Shanahan started with. There's no doubt in that. But Harbaugh and Balky made some good moves, just like Kyle Shanahan and Lynch made some good moves. So that's why, Harbaugh's record is a lot better. He probably had a better team early off. Honestly, they're two different completely styles. They both have strengths. They both have weaknesses. To me, they're both like B plus type coaches. And until you win the Super Bowl or are competitive every single year, I can't give you an A. I can't give Kyle Shanahan an A with a 490 winning percentage. That's just not an A, right? So I know I get beat up a lot from people that love Kyle Shanahan, but that's how I feel. What's up, Rohan?
What up, Rohan? Always welcome, little brother there. Um, that's interesting, man, because I think one of the differences between Kyle Shanahan and Harbaugh had this swagger about him, man. Like Harbaugh is in there, getting into fights with coaches. He's all fired up on the sideline. You just love to see it. Like you wanted to see when that pen that was around his neck was going to get thrown off or something like that, right? So he was entertainment as well. Whereas Shanahan is kind of like even keel. He never gets too high, never gets too low, which, that's just his personality.
And I've seen success with both personalities. So
yeah, absolutely. It's just their personality. Nothing's different with that. I think that in reality, though, Shanahan's demeanor and ability to play nice with others kind of can sustain a longer, I guess, longevity. Maybe Harbaugh has a way of rubbing people the wrong way. He's kind of left each of his former jobs not necessarily in the best light. So I think like overall that aspect, you kind of maybe lean towards Shanahan a little bit more. Other thing is like just the way that the team was looked at. There was a lot of leaks and a lot of, the 49ers were in the press for the wrong reasons sometimes in the Harbaugh era. Whereas, at least knock on wood, to this point, Shanahan has done a really good job with the character of players on the team and, not letting things leak and not there being so much drama around the team, at least from the organization's support. So I agree with you. I mean, I don't think you could go wrong with either of those coaches. I think a lot of people, it's nostalgia that makes people want to go back to Harbaugh because it's far removed and it's coming up. You're asking this question coming off of a loss to Atlanta. So most people are probably, if I put up a poll, it'd be Harbaugh like by a landslide, just because people are like angry with the team right now being 3-3. But yeah, I mean, before those two, it wasn't till the early 90s that you had any success with this team. So those two guys definitely brought some swagger back to the 49ers for sure.
Yeah, and I think it would have been nice to see Harbaugh get an opportunity to pick his GM and hire his GM, kind of like how Kyle was able to do that with John Lynch, because I think that's where a lot of that turmoil came from is, Balky hired Harbaugh, Balky and Jed were cool. Harbaugh was the new guy, the outsider, different personality, very like alpha man's man, like man's man type character. Wanted to be one of the guys. I talked to Anthony Dixon about Harbaugh, and he said, he really liked him, made him feel important. He was like one of the players. It was like another player on the team. So that, there's definitely good and bad to both coaches. And I could go through it, but that's why I think, they're very different, but I think they're also, neither one won the big game. And Harbaugh had a better record, but he also started with a better team. So it all kind of evens out to me.
Got you. Potterbow is coming with some fire questions. Who do you think would develop Trey better?
Now, if I can answer that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Harbaugh all day to me, man. And I'll tell you why. Alex Smith was a joke before Harbaugh. Before Jim Harbaugh got there, people didn't want him on the team. Nobody thought he was going to be worth a dang thing, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of bust conversations around him, right?
Yes. And Harbaugh is so good at just building these guys up, believing in them, giving them confidence. And he did a great job with Alex Smith. He turned Alex Smith from Alex Smith for like a decade was just trash in everybody's eyes. And they try to, a lot of people forget how bad that they looked at Alex. They used to boo him and like call for Carr to come in. Like it was bad, right? So the fact that, or not Carr, but they used to boo him. So the fact that what he was able to do with Alex Smith and then what he was able to do with Colin Kaepernick, I have yet to see. I don't know. I just really think Harbaugh. If I'm going my gut, I'm going to say Harbaugh would be a better fit for Trey Lance. But Kyle Shanahan still has the opportunity to prove me wrong.
You got to go with Harbaugh just because we've seen it, right? And it's not just been on an NFL level. You mentioned Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick, but we've seen him develop coaches on. I mean, we've seen him develop quarterbacks at the college level consistently, right? Whether it be at Stanford or now at Michigan. So we just know he has that ability, and he was a former quarterback as well. So he knows the position. Yeah, he knows the position. And not saying that Shanahan can't, because it did look like he did have a rookie quarterback in Washington, and he did win Rookie of the Year. So that is the best you can do. Like, that's the highest award a quarterback could win in his rookie season. So you saw that, and I mean, usually quarterbacks have done better when they're in Kyle Shanahan's offense versus when they aren't in Kyle Shanahan's offense. And Matt Ryan hasn't had the same type of year that he has when Kyle Shanahan was his offensive coordinator. You see guys like Matt Schaub that looked really, really good with Kyle Shanahan there. So you would think that Kyle Shanahan can develop a quarterback just because quarterbacks, like I said, look better when they're in his offense versus outside of his offense. But we've just seen it with Harbaugh too many times. We don't have to like assume. We've already seen it. So that's why I would give it to Harbaugh. But that doesn't mean that Shanahan can't. He just has to, and we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I think the point you made about Harbaugh being a quarterback, I mean, he was an NFL quarterback. Kyle Shanahan was a college wide receiver who didn't get that much playing time. So it is a big difference,
Do you believe this narrative, Ryan? And I'm sorry, we're sticking to this topic, but I like to get your takes because you've been so close to the team for so long. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that Shanahan broke Trey? Because there's this narrative that he's the reason why Trey's injured and he's utilizing Trey the wrong way. Do you buy into that narrative? Do you feel like there's validity to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do, man. I'm one of the guys driving that narrative because I honestly do. I was hoping. So what I'm hoping, if we look at Steve Young, right? We go way back. Mm-hmm. I don't know how old you are. You look younger than me, I'm sure, but you remember Steve Young.
Steve Young was the reason why I'm a 49er fan, man. That was the first player that I loved on the 49ers. So I was born in 83. I'm 38 right now.
Oh, see, you look younger than that. I'm 79. I'm only 4 years older.
Okay, cool.
So to me, Steve Young is that's the goal. Right? I like Joe Montana. I just personally like Steve Young better, man.
Me too.
Right? And when he started, they used to draw up run plays for him. They were all outside. There's nothing to the middle. But Bill Walsh came to – no, not Bill Walsh. Seifert. Yeah, Seifert came to the conclusion that it was a mistake to draw up run plays for Steve Young because he's at his best when he's just playing natural. And so Steve Young was the most accurate quarterback in 49er history, 70.3% 1 year. So he was accurate from the pocket, but then he could also, if the pocket broke down, the play broke down, he's gone. He's scrambling. He's athletic, and he's taking off. That's what I was hoping that Kyle was going to develop Trey into. Now, maybe he will at some point. Though, before the season started, I'm on Grant's show every Monday, and on Grant's show, before the season started, when they signed Jimmy, I was even more worried. But I said, one of my biggest fears coming into this year is that they're going to run Trey Lance way too much. And they ended up running him more than I even expected. And it was between the A gaps and just in the middle. I never expected that. He ran more per game than Tim Tebow. So no, I don't like how he used him. And I think now it's football. You can get hurt in any way possible. He could have got hurt just dropping back to pass. So I'm not saying Kyle Shanahan is 100% responsible for Trey Lance being hurt, but I hated the way he used him. And I predicted that if he kept using him like that, he was going to get hurt, and he got hurt. So, yeah, I mean, I don't like how he did that. That was one thing that really, I was really down on Kyle Shanahan for a good 2 or 3 weeks after that because of that reason.
Yep. Got you. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I agree as much. I mean, it's hard to defend it because he did get injured. So guys like you, guys like Grant, that were saying it before it happened, you got to give you guys kudos. I don't know if that's what you want kudos for, because obviously it changed the whole trajectory of the season.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, look, I think I think the first 3 years of Shanahan's tenure here, he inherited a really bad team, and they were in the Super Bowl 3 years later. So you get a lot of favor when that happens.
Yeah.
Year 6, though, that stuff's worn off. Now it's not about just reaching NFC Championship games and making it to the Super Bowl. Like, now it's like, hey, man, you got to start doing some things, right? And we can't keep having the same narrative each year, which is like injuries and is the quarterback good enough, and why are you losing the teams that you should win, and shaky beginning of the seasons, and then like the runs deep into the playoffs and stuff. Like, eventually you want to just be a team that's like consistently good, right? And I think that that's the next thing for Shanahan. And I've been really high on Shanahan his whole tenure here, but now it's kind of like, all right, you're gonna make us look stupid. That's been fighting for you this whole time in the Twitterverse. If you don't start, putting some wins together and putting some championships together, or at least like teams that we could be, happy with and confident in, and just like, man, it was bad luck, not because of something that we could point back to a bad play call or something like that, right? So, yeah, I think that I to answer this question, I think that this is a big. I agree with you in the long term of the year, not that important for Kyle Shanahan. But I do think that if he goes and he just gets out coached by Andy Reid, and the team doesn't look good on both sides of the ball, and they just get mollywopped, to use a really old school term.
That's funny.
I think
sorry, go ahead. Finish your thought, man.
No, I'm just saying. I think that if that happens, he's gonna be the seat's gonna get hotter. Is what I'm trying to say. Is like, because it's one thing to like lose to teams that you should be beating, but if you combine that with getting whooped on by teams that you like are Super Bowl caliber teams, and you can't compete with them, you're getting run out of the room. At that point, it's like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah. I mean, especially you got Harbaugh looking at it's definitely going to upset the fan base if he gets out coached by Andy Reid. And Andy Reid, honestly, to me, is a better coach. I mean, he's just Super Bowl winning coach. So it could get ugly, but maybe it won't. I also think it might motivate Kyle Shanahan to pull out all the stops this week. So hopefully he does. Yeah.
Maybe Jordan Mason. You see a Jordan Mason sighting.
I would love.
What's funny though, Ryan? You probably know this as well. Like, the comp for Kyle Shanahan to me is Andy Reid, because I don't know if you probably remember back when he was with the Eagles, he was mentioned as the guy that couldn't win the big game. Yeah. He was just a guy that like could get far but couldn't get over the hump, and then like he finally got it when he won with Kansas City. Very similar to Kyle Shanahan, right? Thought of as an offensive genius, can't win the big game, so people were questioning whether or not he is the genius and all that kind of stuff. Kyle Shanahan wins one Super Bowl, you never have to hear that conversation again, right? So that's kind of interesting. I think they're very similar type careers, I would say.
Yeah, they could be if he wins the Super Bowl. I still don't know. I'm gonna call him a genius, but it definitely would make him an A coach in my mind. Yeah,
that genius is a little too much for you right now.
That's
you ain't willing to give that to him.
Yeah, no,
it's all his daddy scheme.
Only Bill Walsh, bro. Only Bill Walsh gets that from me.
Not even Belichick.
That's the next one people always say. But when Tom Brady left the Patriots, he went and got a Super Bowl. I'm still waiting for Bill Belichick to do his thing without Tom Brady.
All right. Fair enough. So obviously, it's only week 7, but maybe we're playing overreaction Thursday. This is a big game. Like I said, when we did all of our shows, when the schedule was listed, this is the game we all circled, right? Kansas City Chiefs, week 7, kind of know what the team is. It's been 6 weeks. And at this point, you kind of know what you got. Fortunately, we don't know what we got with the 49ers quite yet, right? But we are going up against probably the first test, right? We thought Denver was going to be the first test. That actually wasn't. Denver's obviously down. The Rams haven't been. This is like the first good team that the 49ers are actually playing. Team with the winning record that is playing well, right? How important is this game to the overall season when you look at things like confidence, things like, playing like the seed that you can end up with, and overall how important, one win, one loss can be at the end of a season? How important is this game, let's say to you, Ryan, as far as what you want to see out of the 49ers being a 49er fan, and then just like overall to the trajectory of the whole year?
Yeah, I mean, so it's important only from the standpoint of how do they stack up against a winning team, because this is the first winning team that they played. Every other team they played is below 500, or maybe they have one at 500, but they're either at 500 or below. Every team they played, and they're 3-3, so they're 3-3 against bad teams. If they can pull off a win against a good team, that speaks volumes to who they are or who they can be as the season progresses. And for me, I'd love to see it. It's what I had circled on my calendar. I was hoping it was going to be Patrick Mahomes versus Trey Lance, but it was the one I'm most excited about watching, just because it's a good measure of where you stack up. But as far as like getting into the postseason, I mean, the Rams game next week is more important than this one. They could lose this game and go beat the Rams, and it'd be 4-4 and still up in the division, depending on what happens. So, and it's not, it's an AFC team. It's not even a conference game. So from a getting into the playoff standpoint and seeding standpoint, it's really not that important. But I think for the 49ers and their confidence, if they can beat the Chiefs, it might spark the rest of their season to where they're starting to do their thing a little better than they have been so far.
Yeah, and I mean, I think especially with, some of these injuries, guys that aren't usually getting a lot of playing time are going to get more playing time. This is who you want to get tested against, right? Because in reality, Ryan, I would love to say that come playoff time, we're fully at 100% healthy and all of our starters are our starters. Reality is it doesn't really work out that way. So guys like a Diamador Lenore, who might play a big role come playoff time, now you're going to get tested against, a really good Patrick Mahomes and his receiver core, right? Guy like Talanoa Hufanga, been playing really, really well, but like you mentioned, it's against mid to lower level teams as far as playing what they're playing at. This is going to be a really good offense. Are you as disruptive as you've been against offenses that aren't as high powered as this offense, right? And the list goes on and on and on as far as like defensive line and things like that. I want to see like what do our stars do, because this is the game that you have stars for, right? Yeah. Like Kittle, are you gonna let Kelsey outplay you? Because everybody's saying that Kelsey's a better tight end than you. Because let's be honest, his numbers have been much better than yours comparatively, and he could stay healthy a whole season.
Yeah.
Debo, are you gonna be the most dominant offensive weapon on the field, or are you gonna let Juju or MVS do it because they have a better quarterback on their side, right? Fred Warner, are we gonna hear from you this game, right? Are you gonna make that impact play that we're looking for you to make? Or are you just going to have a solid game like you've been having, right? So those are the things. Bosa, you've missed the game. You want to be sack leader this year. You got to make up now because you missed the game, right? You were in first place when you left. Now you're not. So are you going to make up that and go sack, Mahomes a couple of times? Like, that's what I want to see. That's why I think this is an important game, Ryan, because we get to see the pride of this team. Are they just going to like go into a cocoon because they're not supposed to win this game because of the injuries and they don't have the offense and all these kind of things? Or are they going to be like, F all that noise? We are superstars and we're going to go out here and show you why we are the best team out of these two. And a lot of these guys were on the team in 2019. A lot of these guys are looking over to that roster and saying, you're the reason why I don't have a Super Bowl ring.
Right.
How much is that fire going to come out? And are they going to rise to the occasion, or are they going to, falter? And I think that is an important thing. I agree with you over the trajectory of the year. It probably doesn't make, as far as like the placing and the percentages and all that kind of stuff, they could still easily make the playoffs, even if they lose this game. But that's not what I want. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for us to limp into the playoffs with the easiest path available. I want to see what's the tenacious, even if they lose this game, where's the fight? Like, how much fight did they show? And if the fight is high and we can hold our heads high as 49er fans, that's a good sign, I think, moving forward this year.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
I love it. Well, Ryan, that was the show, man. You brought it like always. Thank you so much for joining in. Guys that are in the chat, I actually linked Ryan's YouTube channel in the description. It takes literally 2 seconds to click the description, click his, and click subscribe. So please do that. He does great work week after week. Ryan, I want to give you some time. What do you got for the rest of the week to plug? I know usually you're Monday through Thursday, but anything going into the weekend these guys could look out for?
I am Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. On my channel. I go live every day. My format's a little different. I usually have at least 2 different guests on every single day for about 15 minutes. So I start off, I always try to start positive. I do 15 minutes, add a guest for 15 minutes, pop another guest in for 15 minutes, and then we wrap up, answer questions, things like that. Tomorrow's a little different. I'm having comedian Hannibal Thompson come on. He's a 49er fan from San Francisco. He's an actor and a comedian. So I thought it'd be interesting to get him on and hear his takes as a 49ers fan. And then Dave, David.
Yes.
Yeah. Am I saying his name right? Leachty?
I don't know. I've only seen it on Twitter. So
I got to get clarification, man, because I don't want to do my boy David like that. But he's going to be on tomorrow. And then I'm having a call-in show on Friday. But, I've had a lot of guests. I appreciate you giving me the time to do it. I mean, I've had on I think I'm going to have on like at least 12 guests this week.
Wow.
Just different kinds of people. I had Anthony Dixon's on my show every Tuesday. And so I just try to provide a cool, just 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Friday type show. So hopefully you guys can come over and join me there. And I'm going to try to get Sunil on too whenever his schedule frees up. I asked him. Yeah, he was like, "Nah, I'm not coming on your show, bro."
That's exactly how it went, guys. Exactly. I'm like, Ryan, I'm too good for that 8 a.m. time slot, bro. Like, I'm prime time, evening time, afternoon. Oh, no, that is not what happened. But definitely on your ride to work, guys, it's a great listen. If you're working from home, just throw it on. If you work out in the morning, throw it on. Work out. You see he gets his pump in maybe mid-show as well, as you can see in the background. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a very, very safe night. Like I say, stay safe, stay hydrated. Go Niners. We'll talk very, very soon.
Thanks, Sunil.